Okay, continuing on with adaptation, talking about chemical defenses of plants. They may produce feeding inhibitors or digestibility reducing compounds, blocking normal digestion, or they may produce toxins such as this plant, tansy ragwort, which is toxic to livestock and horses. Some legumes contain proteins that will inhibit starch digestion. And then herbivores that feed on these plants don't thrive, and that makes them more vulnerable to predators. So milkweed produces some toxins, and cows and sheep that feed on these plants can get sick, miscarry, etc. Most insects avoid the foliage except monarch butterflies. And monarch butterfly caterpillars are actually toxic to predators due to the ingestion of these toxins. And here's a picture of a milkweed with a monarch caterpillar. In this case, we've got a caterpillar feeding on a plant that actually, once it's fed on, will release this volatile organic compound. And when that happens, it actually attracts these parasitoid wasps that will parasitize the caterpillars that are feeding on the plant. Okay, Trifolium repens, which is white clover. Those of you taking weeds, you know that. It produces cyanide for grazing protection. It's released when the plant is damaged. But what happens is when it does that, it actually releases or loses frost tolerance, so it only does this when necessary. And those of you that were enjoying the nectaries in the movies, here's another example of foliar nectaries and ants. And so the nectaries put off a sweet substance that the ants feed on, and they protect the plant from herbivores. Okay, beneficial mites can feed on pest mites, and in some cases the plant may have places for the beneficial mites to hang out. And you can see the lighter colored with the lighter colored mites with the spots. Those are two-spotted spider mites. The red mites are the beneficial mites, and so when you have the right conditions, they can do quite a bit of good trying to manage your spider mite population. Okay, here's some nectaries attracting ants in the stipules of common vetch. So interspecific competition can limit population size. It can affect patterns of dispersion, can influence patterns of diversity, and can actually act as a selective force on traits. So some plants may forego high seed production in order to use the resources to become taller, so they can get to more light. They may also develop deeper root systems. They are able to inhabit different environments, and they have high reproductive ability, the ability to produce large numbers of seeds. They may be able to grow quite large vegetative growth, and leaf structure can maximize photosynthesis. These are all traits of competitive plants. So here's Norway maple. You may or may not have heard that it's invasive, and one of the reasons it's considered invasive is because it leaves out earlier than the native species of maple. And so that gives it a chance to maximize the growing season. It grows very quickly, and it's able to shade out other species, so they're not able to grow. Allelopathy is another way that plants compete with other plants. Allelon means of each other, pathos means to suffer. This is the chemical inhibition of one species by another. So this will affect the development and growth of neighboring plants. It can be found in leaves, flowers, roots, fruits, or stems. It can also be found in the surrounding soil. And here's a simpler picture here. They can volatilize from leaves, leaching from plant litter, can exude from roots, can be released with decomposition. So some of the things they can do on the other species is inhibit shoot root growth, may inhibit nutrient uptake, and it may attack a naturally occurring symbiotic relationship. So the poster child for this is black walnut. This is juglone, which is the chemical, and it inhibits other plants from respiring. Tree of Heaven, or Ailanthus altissima. This is the tree that grows in Brooklyn. And the reason it's called the tree that grows in Brooklyn, you can see that it grows anywhere in the cracks of walls, between the sidewalk and the wall. And so there's a toxin that's extracted from the root and bark of the ailanthus, and they're very easily able to form monocultures. And then sorghum, the chemical in sorghum can disrupt mitochondrial functions and inhibit photosynthesis of competing plants. Okay, another way that plants adapt is biological fixation by legumes. There are other plants that also fix nitrogen. Atmosphere has between 78 and 79% nitrogen, and the only plants that can actually access this nitrogen are plants that are able to fix nitrogen with a relationship with a bacteria. And in this case, we've got rhizobia. That's the most common that most people know about. Beans have this. They're able to form nodules, and then they're able to transform the gas into a mineral form of nitrogen that the plant can use. We will talk more about this next quarter in soils. Here's what they look like underground. This is the nodules on soybeans. Another thing that's very beneficial for plants are mycorrhizal fungi. And there's many things that mycorrhizal fungi do for plants, but this is the simplest thing right here. The hyphae is much smaller than even the root hairs on trees, so it's able to access water and minerals that roots may not be able to get to. And in return, the tree will provide carbohydrates to the fungi. So the benefits include allowing more efficient use of phosphorus and zinc in fertilizers. It can also work with the nitrogen fixation on nodulated plants. It can improve soil nutrition. It can also help protect the roots from microorganisms that might be damaging. So nutrients is, the capacity is increased for phosphorus, potassium, iron, copper, nitrogen, sulfur, and zinc. So other things they can do is they can immobilize some heavy metals such as zinc, cadmium, and manganese. They can improve water use and drought tolerance. And they can help improve soil structure by helping the soil bind soil aggregates together. And again, as I said, we'll talk a lot more about this next quarter in soils. So they're able to increase the area of soil explored for water, so this helps with drought tolerance. So they effectively increase the surface area of the root. And they also increase the longevity of the roots that have the capacity for water absorption. Okay, here's mycorrhizal fungi around the base of a birch. And here is ectomycorrhizae, but these are, ecto means outside, so these are mycorrhizae that form on the outside of the roots. There are also endomycorrhizae. Here are some mushrooms that are associated with madrone. The Ericaceae has its own group of mycorrhizal fungi. Here are the mycorrhizal root tips of madrone. Here are the mycorrhizal root tips of Douglas fir. And a lot of the timber companies have figured out that mycorrhizal fungi are very beneficial for their stands, and they will actually try to transplant mycorrhizal fungi from a site into the nursery containers in order to try to encourage mycorrhizae growing in the pots. So commensalism is using without harming, and so some species may interact in a way that helps one species but has little or no effect on the other. In this case, we've got a bromeliad growing on a tree. So one example is epiphytes, which bromeliads are. It's basically a plant that grows on the surface of other plants, and Spanish moss is also in the bromeliad family. So on the upper right here you see a close-up on Spanish moss, and here it is hanging from a tree. And if you haven't seen this, I highly recommend you try to go to the south and you check this out. It's amazing. And so they're usually found in the tropics. Again, this is the plant that grows on the surface of other plants. These are bromeliads growing in a tree.